Oklahoma lawmakers were back in the Capitol this week for a three-day special session to formalize their plans to allocate almost $2 billion in American Rescue Plan Act funding. We have team coverage of the special session and Governor Kevin Stitt's reaction to it, beginning with our Capitol correspondent, Jason Doyle. Jason?
Rich, the special session was originally focused on just those federal funds, but was expanded to address drought relief. 60 projects were on the agenda for this special session.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God.
As the special session got underway midweek, legislative leaders were confident things would go fairly smooth.
Not everyone agrees on everything, but most of these projects are both bipartisan and bicameral, the vast majority of them.
That may be the case, but Senate Bill 3 slowed the process down on Thursday. The bill would give OU Children's Hospital more than $39 million to build a mental health facility for youth. But there is a caveat
that disallows the recipient of these monies to be able to perform gender reassignment medical treatment.
That sparked 3 hours of debate in the Senate.
Throughout the bill, there's language about the consistency with the recommendations of the Pandemic Relief Committee. Did the Pandemic Relief Committee recommend these projects with exclusions for medical care?
That was decided, and I don't know if that was discussed in the joint committee or not, but I do know there's been a lot of discussion in the public space about this issue.
Is there any consideration given to the removal of those people associated with the OU Children's Hospital who allowed such a thing to happen in the first place?
This bill does not entertain trying to remove people.
If we all already agree that that money should go to children's behavioral health, why was it necessary to add this exclusion to get this bill across the line?
We became aware of a practice that many of us in this body do not agree with, believe is inappropriate. And in the moment of being able to provide for this critical service, we took action that we feel is appropriate.
The Senate did pass the bill. The House also took up the measure and sent it to the governor with the restriction in place. The vast majority of the ARPA projects under consideration during the special session cover 4 primary areas. Those are broadband expansion, water and wastewater systems, workforce development initiatives, and health care, including mental health care programs.
Very important in our state. Rural Oklahoma, telemedicine. Many of our doctors are moved to the urban areas. We struggle with medicine. Broadband's very important for that. Education. And then, of course, economic development and communication.
Broadband expansion is important. That's not just important for rural Oklahoma. That's important for those of us in urban areas of this state. I think the misconception is that everyone in Oklahoma City and Tulsa and other metro areas have access to broadband, and that's not the case.
Munson notes this is a good time for lawmakers to be able to reach across the aisle and work together to make sure the ARPA money goes where it's most needed.
The good things that we have done, I want to make sure that I celebrate them publicly, which I have, but also sign on as a co-author and work together with my Republican colleagues to get those pieces of legislation across the finish line.
What did split the House and the Senate this week? The governor's renewed call for the elimination of the grocery tax.
You know, when they're coming back in to spend $2 billion, the least we can do is pass a grocery tax.
The Senate wants to take a more measured approach to tax reform.
We've had a working group going all summer. We have, out of that working group, some really solid ideas for long-term tax reform. And so the Senate is going to continue to be focused on long-term, solid tax reform.
The House would pass the measure right now.
From the House's perspective, we're ready. We would go in and cut the sales grocery tax tomorrow. We would do it yesterday. We would do it last week. We do the same with the income tax cut.
The governor feels that Oklahomans are suffering with skyrocketing inflation, so help at the grocery store is warranted.
I don't think we're on the brink of a recession. We're in a bear market right now. The oil and gas industry and the way we've diversified our economy over the last 4 years, Oklahoma's in a great situation.
House Floor Leader John Echols adds the money from the ARPA projects has already impacted inflation.
When we're spending these ARPA dollars, we have 2 options, and they are a bifurcated option. There's no option 3. We're going to spend them,
or we're going to send them back to the federal government. The federal government's going to spend them. But there's no option 3. They're not going to burn them. They're not going to not spend them. So these are dollars already in circulation.
The legislature will hold this special session open until October 14th as Governor Stitt considers the bills.
We're still in session, and so the standard rules apply. It has 5 days. And so either to sign them or veto. And so you will see us, that these are very important to us. Whenever we pass the bills, we'll not just sign it, die, and go home. We'll give him his 5 days, and you'll see us sign a die date in the future that will give us time to come back and override any vetoes that we may need to.
Another unifying measure for the legislature was drought relief. They're adding $20 million to the Emergency Drought Relief Fund, recently activated by Governor Stitt to help our farmers and ranchers.